Porkins Policy Radio, offering a unique perspective on everything: geopolitics, culture creation, the reality of the world we live in. Coming to you live from New York City, your host, Pierce Redmond.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Porkins Policy Radio. As always, I am your host, Pierce Redmond, and you can find this show here at American Freedom Radio, AmericanFreedomRadio.com, as well as on my website, which is PorkinsPolicyReview.com. And, of course, there are lots of ways to listen to the show. If you are new, you can, of course, follow me through RSS feeds and also through email updates. I am on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, Player FM, and I think a whole bunch of other podcatchers out there. There's always a new one that seems to have added me to the feed. So if any of the listeners out there know of another way to listen, then please let me know. Of course, I am rebroadcast later on in the week on Friday nights from 10 to midnight on a host of other stations. And I'm also replayed on Saturdays from 6 to 8 Mountain Time on KYAH 540 AM, which is out in Utah. So if you're in that region, then definitely tune in around that time if you want to hear me on the actual, the airwaves out on an AM station. A couple little updates and stuff I just want to get out of the way. I've been really behind on Patreon right now, so I still haven't uploaded the new bonus podcast, and I missed one for the month of April. So please just bear with me. There's been some I talked about it last week, a death in my family and some other personal stuff, so it's just been a little tricky getting it up there, but I will get it up there. And I also realized that I haven't thanked a bunch of people who recently signed up to support me on Patreon. So thank you to David, Kurt, Kevin, Wesley, and also thank you to JP Satilli, who is a friend of the show and also signed up. And again, if you want to support my work, you can go to patreon.com/Pierce Redmond, and you can become a subscriber for as little as $1 a month, which gives you access to the bonus podcast. And if you donate more, of course, you can also suggest topics for me to cover on the show. I haven't gotten any suggestions in a while, so if you're out there, if you are at the $5 level, please send me some ideas for future shows, and we will cover them right here on Porkins Policy Radio on American Freedom Radio. But we are joined once again by a good friend of the show, a good friend of mine, someone who I have collaborated with on the past, and that is our friend Aaron Franz, who is the proprietor of theageoftransitions.com. And if you go there, you can find all of the shows that Aaron does. He is the host of Trans Resistor Radio. He's also the co-host of Uncle the Podcast, and also the co-host of Themes and Memes. And there was a new episode of Themes and Memes, a very recent one that maybe we'll touch on a little bit later. But Aaron, how are you? It's good to be talking with you.
Very good to be here. Thanks for having me back, Pierce.
Excellent. And I guess a reminder, if people didn't check it out, I was on last week's episode of Trans Resistor Radio, and we talked about my trip to Ireland. We talked about Newgrange and the Hill of Tara and some other ancient Neolithic sites. We talked about whiskey. We even took some listener call-in questions, which was really fun. And maybe sometime soon we'll do that on this show. We'll take some callers. But Aaron, before we even kind of get started, update all of the listeners out there who may not know, but you are now doing Trans Resistor Radio live every Wednesday, correct?
That's right. Yeah, new live show over at Ocelli.com. It airs Wednesday nights at 7 to 9 Pacific time. That's my time. It's 10 to midnight Eastern. However, the caveat to that is next week it won't be a live show then. Either it'll be a rebroadcast or I might even tape Thursday because it's just things going around. But typically it's Wednesday nights. And I've gotten a chance to record all of my previously podcasts, I've been able to record a live version of each of them. Usually the show it's a 2-hour show, and in the first hour it's the Transresistor Radio. That's what you get in hour 1 from 10 to 11 Eastern Time. And then in the second hour, it's usually Uncle the Podcast. And that's, I really like doing it that way. You get to do both of the shows live. It's kind of like all jumbled into one, but it's separated. It's just a good way to do things. And one time I was able to record a live version of Themes and Memes with Adam, and he deserves a lot of credit because he woke up at like 5 a.m.
It's a big time difference in New Zealand.
Yeah, well, he's in Germany now.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah. He's now in Germany, and it's still a horrible time difference.
Oh, yeah, like 5, 6 hours.
I think it's 8. It's either 8 or 9 hours. I think 8. But yeah, it's terrible in terms of recording a show. So he woke up at a really tough time, and we recorded a show where we talked about Black Mirror, the Netflix series Black Mirror. We got into season 3 specifically. We talked about a number of episodes. It was a lot of fun. I mean, doing a live show, you know the difference between casting and doing a live show. There's a definite difference. And as you were saying here in the introduction, on the show last week when you were my guest on Transresistor Radio, we were able to take a call from a caller named Corey, and that was cool. I mean, I've always kind of wanted to do that, like have a show where you can take the calls and, you get to interact with the listeners. And I love the random, like you don't know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're rolling the dice like, okay, we're taking a call. This could go like in any direction, like bring it on. I just love that feeling.
Yeah. First time, long time,
yeah. First time caller, long time listener. Yeah.
How does Uncle like doing the show live? Does he enjoy it more? Is it a little more stressful? How does he like it?
He likes it more. He likes it more because because he knows that it's live radio, so it seems like more official. I mean, it is in a way. It's like, yeah, we're doing a live show. So it's going out there as we speak. He loves taking the callers too, and he's actually upset that he's not getting call after call. He thinks he ought to, but right. we get calls nonetheless. We've had a couple. And yeah, he also likes the fact that the shows are longer now. I mean, it's an hour long.
Right.
And typically, I mean, when we were starting out Uncle the Podcast, had them between like 10 and 15 minutes long. At the very beginning. They got longer from there to like a half an hour, but now it's a full hour. So Uncle really gets to explain a lot of things to me and to the entire audience that way.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'll try and call in for Uncle sometime in the next couple of weeks, and maybe I'll call in a couple of times too if there aren't too many calls coming in his way. To spice things up a little bit. Aaron, I was talking to you yesterday in some of my emails, and I was we were just sort of chatting before we went live here, just about how I had almost no idea what I was going to do for the show, and I was sort of trying to come up with some, I don't know, talking points, and I sent you an article, which was interesting, but clearly I didn't know what I was trying to come up with for the show. Maybe we'll touch on that a bit later.
It was a good article. I think maybe we could. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, no, but why don't we start with something a bit stronger? And you were telling me that you'd also been kind of busy and working on a lot of stuff lately, but you've been sort of toying around and working on this idea of the sort of imagined dividing line between the real and the fantastic, the objective and the subjective. And this sort of got me thinking yesterday, and especially today, when I was just sort of going about, my daily routine on a Tuesday and doing stuff, and I had to go to work, and I was just sort of thinking about that concept more and more, and how it really is something that it's easy to kind of, not even dismiss it, but just sort of not think about it, but it is something that is, going on all around us. And I think, you kind of have to take a step back and, take some time and really kind of look at it. But why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about why you've been kind of toying around with this and sort of thinking about this more and more lately?
Well, as you might be able to guess, I'm reading books about occult subjects as usual. I love doing that. I recommend doing that to everybody because when you it's just the whole realm of the occult gets your mind working in a more holistic fashion, I would say. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the problem inherent in what we're talking about here. The dividing line between the real and the fantastic, the objective and the subjective. I mean, it's been an issue for, I mean, you can't even say for how long. You could go back into prehistory to a point where human consciousness was definitely not what it is today. And that's true. And that fact of like who we are, where we've come from, where we've been, that gets forgotten and just thrown out the window so often that I think that's a big stumbling block for us, and again raises this issue of like, okay, like I know what's real and I know what's not real. Well, I would, someone saying that very confidently probably is in the most trouble. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, I know what's real and what's not. Like, well, yeah, okay, whatever. Like I would guess that you probably don't. And of course we have to be careful too, because I mean there is such a thing as the objective world. There are facts that we can gather. I mean, there's very tangible, all sorts of tangible things we can point to. And, science is working away trying to understand the world in an objective sense. Sometimes it does well, sometimes it doesn't, what I mean? But I would say when science, so to speak, fails, it's because of the failing of the scientist. And thus, we're getting into this problem of oftentimes we have this inability to confess that we always put a subjective spin onto everything. We have to interpret our world. And when we do so, we do it in a way that makes sense to us, that we leave our mark on what it is we do and what it is we're saying. You know what I mean? We put our worldview, we create a worldview. And so this is the situation we're in. When we're creating our worldview, how much of I love the honks on your show.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear that?
Yeah. I'll just diverge for a second. I actually enjoy that. Every time like a fire truck goes by, it's part of your show, you know what I mean?
Well, it is sweltering right now. It's about like 84 degrees here in New York, and it's more like 90 degrees in my room where I record. So, the window has to be open if I'm going to make it through. But yeah, there's always some. Don't worry, there'll be another fire truck coming pretty soon.
I love it. Well, that's part of the real world. I mean, we know that that's keeping things real on this show, and I like that. But yeah, it's all about, I guess, this fine dividing line. And again, to get back to occult subjects, boy, you got to be careful not to get carried away with them too, because I was being a proponent and saying it's good to study that sort of thing. But I'll also say, well, look, when you do, try not to make the mistake of like going head over heels with it and just becoming a member in some cult or another, because that can happen pretty easily too. So there's the fine line we tread, because I think it's very important to have that deep understanding, that delve into even fantastic ideas and give them their due, but remain somehow keep a head on your shoulders and not go cuckoo.
Well, Aaron, on that this sort of line of thinking again of what is the world that we live in, what is reality. What do you make of this? We'll get these like huge, sort of like they're now celebrity scientists almost, like Michio Kaku. Stephen Hawking, I believe, just before he died, one of the last things that he wrote about is how we're all living in like a computer simulation. And you'll see this come from a lot of these sort of celebrity scientists who present these sorts of ideas to people. And on the one hand, I think it's interesting that they're talking about this as a subject. But at the same time, more to what you were just referring to, there are people that take this to a really kind of extreme sort of a worldview. Where, because Stephen Hawking said we're living in a computer simulation, the Matrix is real, all of a sudden. And what do you make, though, of this, like, kind of constant barrage of the sort of, like, scientists and transhumanists and people like Elon Musk and others who are constantly telling us that nothing is real, that we're all in a computer simulation, or this is like an alternate reality that's not our own? And I mean, what do you make of that? Because it seems like every time it kind of dies down, suddenly, I'll go on Twitter of all places, and Elon Musk will be trending talking about something like that. What do you make of that?
It's quite the magical mystery tour we're on these days, isn't it? And of course, it's being led by these thought leaders, these big shots, people like our Lord and Savior, Elon Musk, and these are, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know. He seems like he's losing it, He's like the Silicon Valley version of Kanye West right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the crazier the better in one sense, for them personally, because there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? And so much of what Elon Musk does is just like, he just is, and this is actually a friend I had on the show recently, Winston Conrad, he pointed this out. He's like, what Elon Musk does is just make pronouncements all the time.
Yeah.
That's like what he's in the business of doing. He'll pronounce something, and therefore, he's created this cult of personality very skillfully, I'd say. I mean, he has done that, and is, much like Trump is good at. That's the one thing Trump is good at. It's certainly something that Elon Musk and all these other people with fame, notoriety, it's either what they themselves have cultivated or, their team or whoever they're working with that puts them up on the stage. You know what I mean? That's an important thing. It's like, hey, look, I am Elon Musk, and when I say my name, the connotation is who I am. I'm billionaire. I made all this money, but I'm not like other billionaires. Okay, it's not just about business. It's not just about being a billionaire and just doing what I want or whatever your idea of a billionaire is. No, I'm here to save the world too. And I'm doing it through business. I'm doing it through my businesses because my businesses are ethical and I'm a maverick. I'm doing things my own way. And I won't let the crooked establishment stop me from saving the world, right? So he's in the same way Trump was he was playing to those same things. Like, look, I don't play with the rest of the band. I'm my own man, and in so doing, I'm my own person. I'm out for myself, but that actually means that I'm here to help you. You see that little strange dialectic going on there. Like, I'm all about me, and I do things my way, and me. Listen to me talk about how great I am. That's all I seem to be able to do. By working this way, I'm going to save you, the little guy. And I'm just sitting here when anybody's doing this, I'm like, how does this work? I mean, how's this megalomaniacal crazy person going to do something in my best interest, And so I don't know. It's just it blows my mind that this works on people. But there definitely is a magical element to this, and getting into the occult again. It's all about perception, right? Perception is and this gets to the subjective again. So the same thing we started on. What is the difference between the real and the fantastic? Well, Elon Musk is jumbling up both of those things. He's taking fantastic ideas, but he's pitching them in a way that he really makes you think that they're part of his project. Like, I'm going to objectively make all this science fiction reality, come true. And in so doing, I'm going to save the world. So you're going to have to worship me because I did it, right? But it's going to be for you, right? So, get down on your hands and knees, bow down, and all that kind of business. So none of this sits well with me. I know it doesn't with you either, Piers, but I don't know. I guess for a lot of people it seems to work somehow.
No, it's sort of like Elon Musk talking about, we are going to Mars. While part of me wants to believe this, it's not happening. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Not anytime soon. I think SpaceX and there are other smaller private companies as well. I think what they're doing is commendable in some respects, and certainly they're not just taking taxpayer money away on crazy frivolous space projects. I know that that's maybe not what NASA wants to be doing, but that is sort of what they do. So on some level, it's like, sure, whatever. If he wants to spend billions, if not trillions, of his own money building rockets that go nowhere, then by all means, go for it. But I know what you mean. There's that sort of it always seems when he's talking that like this is just about to happen, and we're going to go to Mars because Earth is sort of doomed, and we're going to start this whole new life. And then he'll turn around and say that Skynet is going to happen any moment, and we have to fight the robots, and he keeps kind of jumping around, and it does sort of present you with this sort of strange. Again, I can't tell. Going to this sort of objective subjective mindset, I can't really tell with Elon Musk if he even believes what he's saying, or if it's become so sort of like fantastic in his own mind that he just kind of says this stuff without even thinking.
Let me just put this in there. Just put yourself in his shoes. You've got this platform where you say something and everybody listens to you. And I mean, millions of people listen instantly to what you're going to say, be it on Twitter or wherever. So if you were in that situation, I don't know about you. If I was in that situation, I think I would abuse it by just goofing around with people, if nothing else. I think I'd just like have fun, like doing funny jokes and like saying things that got people all worked up. And you can tell he does this. You can tell he's like giggling when he does a lot of stuff like, oh, this will get him, And like, you can't really expect anything but that.
Right. No, true. And again, too, even when people, you'll see this like, there's been more so this like anti-Elon Musk backlash on social media criticizing him. As if he really even cares or reads this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And B, it's just like, he's the billionaire. He can do whatever the hell he wants to. It really doesn't matter if a bunch of people are saying, oh, he's losing it, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Maybe he really is going to go to Mars and leave us all behind, and form a new, planet, country, with his new girlfriend Grimes. Maybe that's what Elon Musk is going to do. I don't know. It's just one of those strange, again, that sort of blending between reality and fiction that you were talking about. And I guess we could almost even we could bring that down to. I hate bringing it up because I was so careful while I was on vacation not to look at Twitter really for the most part, and didn't read anything about our illustrious great leader Trump. But he sort of brought that down almost to like an everyday level with this fake news stuff, the way that he kind of goes on and on about it. And that is very much, or to me at least, seems very much like this sort of what you were talking about there, where what is the real world? Is it what Donald Trump is saying? Or is it what, Fox News or the New York Times is saying? It's not as if they're really all that trustworthy. And I think it instills this mindset with a lot of people where then when they hear Stephen Hawking say we're living in a simulation, they are like, oh yeah, I guess we are, with all the fake news and whatnot. I don't know, Aaron. What do you make of that? Is that just sort of me kind of going off on a tangent, or is there something to that as well?
No, you're right on point here, I'd say. And to my mind, the issue of our day, what we're dealing with and what we have to work out one way or another, is again one of perception and the difficulty of discerning true from false, right from wrong, all that, right? We're very much caught up in this losing battle of, okay, well, what's right here in the given argument, the argument at hand, because everything is framed in the form of an argument for us. You find everywhere you look, everyone's arguing with each other, and I'm sitting here going like, well, what are we arguing? Can't we just talk about stuff? Why does everything have to be a conflict, you know? But the conflict all stems, I think, in part from, you know, our own individual problem of perception and not being able to discern the truth from falsehood expands out to the macrocosmic level where the same thing is going on. And it doesn't have to be this way. There's just a lot of, I feel like, simple shortcomings that we're basically all falling prey to, that if we just sat back and relaxed even and thought about it, be like, you know what, this isn't worth worrying about, really. I don't mean to like downplay all the problems of the world, because we have our share. You know what I mean? I don't want to act like we're not in a bad situation. We are. But I think if we were able to somehow work on our discernment and really put some effort into that, because I think there's a lot of like mutual understanding to be gained if really energy is put in that direction. So yeah, the fake news, everything's fake. Like, well, yeah, everybody's just kind of making stuff up. You know what I mean? And people do this. And again, this is the fantasy aspect, either the fantastic or the real. Like, yeah, people are just making up fantasies because in one sense they know people will just de facto believe it. So that shows you where we definitely do have to put our guard up and not just believe anything. That's a problem. And a big part of it is, it goes back to the Elon Musk thing. He has cultivated a position of authority. And so, you know, we by default just will believe an authority. If it's established that that's what they are, we'll just like, oh, okay, this authority said it. Therefore, I'm not going to bother taking my time breaking it down. I'm just going to go with it. So we have to be we have to be rebellious in a sense, in the sense of just realizing we have to question everything. But we also see all these problems. We cannot allow ourselves to get bogged down in this nihilistic wasteland where we go, okay, well, I can't deal with this. This is just too much. Like, everybody's lying to me. I'm just going to shut down. And I would say, I mean, that's the confusion. That's the big dark element to all this, is that's what a lot of people are doing. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, to shut down. But I mean, that's the kind of natural reaction to being bombarded with a bunch of ridiculous stuff that you shouldn't be putting your time or energy into, but when you're forced to, I mean, what do? So we've got to kind of like find some sort of methods for forcing out what's being forced upon us, if that makes any sense. I know I'm kind of not. I'm really. Am I losing?
No, you're not. No, not at all. I was just sort of thinking like myself. You know, like. Lately, I've just found everything in the world just so utterly depressing and upsetting, and just, you know, everything, you know, you turn on the news or you go to read something in the news, and it's just there's something. The news can always be a little traumatic, you know, the reality of global conflicts around the world and inequalities and things like that. I mean, there's always an element of trauma when you're not even just reading the news, just learning about the world. But lately I've found the trauma to be like almost just like intentional. Like everything is just sort of about, upsetting you. And I found myself kind of shutting down a little bit, sort of doing what you were just sort of cautioning people against. Because it becomes like almost like all too much to handle. It just becomes this loud echo chamber where seemingly everybody is just lying. There is no truth anymore. There's no reality. It's just whatever this authority figure is telling you. So if that's the New York Times or Donald Trump, there are enough people in America that believe both of those are authorities and authoritative figures with which, whatever they say has to be kind of held up as the truth. And I don't know, it's difficult to not kind of want to just like put your head in the sand and forget about it, or, to kind of fall prey to these charlatans on the internet and other places that promise you the answer and promise that, with just in just a few more weeks, QAnon is going to, finally reveal himself and all will be forgiven. And, the anointed will be let into the Garden of Eden and everyone else will be cast aside and, burned in hell with the pedos. That's like another one of these sort of extreme ends that a lot of people, I think, kind of find themselves. And that's like, just classically, there is no reality to that. There is no QAnon. There is, he doesn't exist, or certainly not in the way that, some people on the internet are portraying this person, he or she, I guess, whoever knows, who knows who QAnon is. Of course, though, it's a man. It has to be a man. There's no way it could be a woman. Yeah. That's the only thing that would make me happy is if like QAnon is real, but it was, it's like I don't know, like a black trans queer, activist who works in like some government agency that they would all just despise, like works for like Social Security or some welfare thing. That would be the only way I would really like QAnon is if that was the reality. Just to see all these people kind of, explain this away or tell us, no, this is really, I know we've been talking about how evil, all of those groups are, but this one is really good. So yeah, I don't know. It is a difficult world to navigate, Aaron. And that kind of in a roundabout way kind of brings us to, this, article that I sent you that was from the Daily Mail. So, it's good. But that's a little just as an aside, trade secret. If you're doing a radio show and you don't have any ideas, go to dailymail.com and you will find something to talk about on the show. There's always something ridiculous that you can find on the Daily Mail, and you can kind of extrapolate out from that deeper meaning, and you can make it into something. But this article it's science fiction becomes reality. Researchers transfer memories between animals in research that could help to unlock how we store them in our own brains. And I'll link up to this in the show notes if people want to read it. It's a bizarre experiment that was done at UCLA, and they were able to, took sea slugs and they shocked them with some sort of like an electrical wire, and they shocked these sea slugs like over and over again. It sounds horrible, but they are just sea slugs, so like whatever. But I think it was like for 2 or 3 days they did nothing but like shock these sea slugs until the point where the sea slugs, if you introduce the electrical wire near them, they knew, and I think they would like suck their gills in, or they would do something. Some sort of like trained response, because originally if you have a sea slug and you have some wire that has thousands of volts running through it, the sea slug won't know any better and will just go up and touch the wire.
Yeah, it's the same thing as Pavlov. It's a Pavlovian response. Yeah.
And somehow, these scientists at UCLA, they extracted RNA from the sea slugs. I don't really quite know how that works.
Yeah, they described that. Somehow they rotated
the whole thing
in some
sounded,
machine.
Yeah, they sucked out RNA, which is a component of DNA, I believe. Yeah. If I have that right. They extracted RNA from the sea slugs, and then they put it in a centrifuge or something, and they spun it around super fast.
Yeah.
And then they injected that back into other sea slugs. And suddenly the sea slugs, when shown this electrical current, this thing that was going to shock them, the sea slugs that had been injected instantly knew that was dangerous. And the UCLA researchers are saying, well, this proves that, memory is something more tangible, that it's chemical. That there is a chemical thing in your memory.
It's stored in your genes. It's stored in the RNA, not in your mind, not in your brain.
Right, exactly. And they sort of, hypothesize that theoretically in the future that this could be used to extract painful memories out of people. So if you were suffering from PTSD, you could just sort of have that memory erased, I guess, essentially. Or you could have a happy memory implanted into your brain, I guess, if you were really depressed, maybe. And the whole thing sounds a bit nightmarish, because this, Aaron, what did you make of this? Just sort of in light of what we were talking about, there's all this trauma in the world, there's all this negative stuff. We were just sort of talking about what is real and what's not real. Is an implanted memory real? Is that a real thing? And what is memory that tangible? What do you make of that?
Yeah, this brings up a lot of questions and a lot of different ways you could dissect and discuss this. The Bruins are up to it again, of course, just south of Sunset Boulevard. They're shocking these slugs, somehow extracting their RNA and putting it into slugs. So it's just another project out here in Los Angeles. That's fun for me, at least. But this is crazy. This is a great, in terms of, as you're saying, the fantastic and the real, and it gets into the realm of the subjective and the abstract, definitely, because we're talking about memory, which has traditionally been relegated as an aspect of mind, right? And in more modern times as something that is the function of the brain, or one of the functions of the brain. You store a memory somewhere in your brain, so it's up there in your gray matter. You have to call it back, but it's coming. If you're talking about physically from a deterministic point of view, it's somewhere in there in a brain tissue somewhere. So that's where the memory is stored. Now, this changes quite a bit, because the memory isn't stored in your head, in your brain. It's somewhere in your RNA, the ribonucleic acid, right? It's a genetic thing. So the concept of genetic memory, so this has been a very hot topic in alt circles too. It kind of comes and it goes, but people often bring up the concept of genetic memory and epigenetics, and how the experiences and even memories of our ancestors are built into us because it's part of this genetic sort of thing. And I'm not going to say that that's correct or incorrect, but it definitely, this, if we're to believe the conclusions made from these experiments, it would be in that context. And I could definitely see that is, the truth of the matter. But the issue is, well, what do you make of that? You know what I mean? And what about our ideas and our philosophical take on all of this? Okay, so physically, we were wrong before, right? Because we were saying that the memory was in the brain, but it's actually in RNA. Okay, so what does that change? You know what I mean? It kind of, if anything, it points to, again, this holistic approach to what our bodies, our vessels are. You know what I mean? We always, and when doing science, we tend to divvy things up because it makes it easier. Basically, that's kind of just basically what happens. Like, okay, well, what parts of the body have what functions? And the more complex and difficult to answer, you really can't even answer, is how do all these systems of our body work together, and how are actually different parts doing, different systems actually taking part in the same processes? You know, how is memory distributed through the body? You know what I mean? Like, right. And what is the body anyway? You know, what are genes? What is DNA? Where'd that come from? You know, so it just gets into a lot of different interesting areas. But I like this sort of. I like it when like a new idea pops in there. And it just makes you think, and I think that's what it ought to do. It ought to like make you go, oh, you know, maybe our previous thinking wasn't. Maybe we're getting there, but we were kind of far off still. And I think the best way to view it is like, well, we're still real far off. If we think we're anywhere close to understanding the body, I mean, give me a break. Like, and
maybe in a sea slug, but
yeah, I know this is sea slugs. Yeah, so. That's one of the big qualms I have with the transhumanist thing, is because you kind of have to assume that you're able to get a hold on these concepts like genetics in order that you start playing around like, oh yeah, now we understand genetics, so we're just going to genetically engineer stuff. I'm like,
right.
I was talking about Pandora's box. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's such a good idea. You know, let's first things first. Let's try to figure out what sites are fake news, and then maybe we can go about genetically engineering ourselves once we can just instantaneously know true from false. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
No, I don't think so either. And it was just sort of thinking when you're talking there, it had me thinking about again, like talking about this memory as this genetic thing. I mean, then that kind of calls into question like. False, like what is a false memory? You know, can you know, or repress memories? I mean, is there? I can almost see like, you know, I don't know, in the future, there being an application where, you know, you can like in a courtroom, you know, they could say, oh, you know, instead of a lie detector, they'll take some of your RNA and you know, they'll spin it around and they can tell, oh, this memory isn't real at all. This is just totally made up. Because we can tell, you know, genetically all of the memories of Aaron Franz, and he was lying about whatever, you know, who broke that lamp in his house. You know what I mean? It was, yeah. You know, it was somebody. It wasn't your daughter. It was really Aaron who did it. You know, something like that. I mean, it sounds, I don't know. And then the more like ethical question of like, is this? Because this seems a bit like a direction that I could see society going in, you know, especially now with all this stuff, is basically just, if something bad happens to you, you just go and you get it removed, you know? There always has, like, we especially in America, we love the quick fix. Oh, you're having, you know, trouble losing weight. Oh, well, don't exercise or eat healthy. Just take this pill and do whatever the hell you want to, and everything will be better. You know, I mean, this is like, I don't know, maybe I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on this, but like, you know, like, I'm sure you've seen these around, like, gout is coming back, apparently. You know,
I've known some people who have had gout. I have, yeah.
Yeah, and I think on some level, yes, there are people that are just going to get gout, but a lot of that is also diet and exercise. Like, you can reverse gout, theoretically. You don't need to just take a pill that Pfizer made and not really kind of follow that up with, like, lifestyle changes. So I can see people having maybe really serious traumatic events. You know, I can understand a scenario where they would say, I want this removed from my brain. I can't live anymore. You know, I mean, you can maybe see that with like soldiers. But on the flip side to that, it's like then there's like life has no consequences. There's no like meaning to life anymore where, you know, like with a soldier, I could see the military loving that because then, you know, you never really, these people, you know, you can fix these guys over and over and over again. They could go and butcher a whole, you know, family of children in a village in Afghanistan and then go to the medic, have that memory removed, and then they could just go out and do it again. And I don't know, what do you think of that idea? Because that's part of the Daily Mail article kind of throws that out there, that, you know, this could be used to remove trauma. And I don't know, there seems to be kind of something like really terrifying about that. And you never really work out what the trauma was. So I don't know, what do you make of that?
Yeah, well, this goes back to the old point that any new technology or new technique, generally speaking, brings with it not just the good applications, but as Jacques Guillot would say, actually more bad uses than good. That was his opinion on the matter. And I tend to agree with that more often than not. It's, you know, I don't like being like a pessimist as such, but I think it's good to be realistic about just, you know, progress, generically speaking. I mean, it doesn't just go in one direction. I mean, everybody understands this, but the bar is being raised to such an extent now that we don't need to be technophobes about things, but we just have to be more careful than we were before. You know, we have to be more responsible than we've ever been, right? We've got all this power in our hands, you know, but do we know what to do with it? Do we know when to hold back and when to maybe press forward and try something bold and different? Sure, you know, there's times where you can be experimental and like go out there on a limb, so to speak, scientifically, medically, or wherever, in order to try to help somebody. But you also have to be cognizant of the fact that you know, the dark things are there. And the dark things are there. They're not going away. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, again, it's the problem continues to be one of the mind. And again, we're going back to that experiment. Well, memories are, I would say an incorrect way to view that is, well, no longer are memories a part of our minds. They're parts of our bodies, and we create that separation of mind and body. It's like, well, no. What we should be learning is that the mind and the body are like the same thing, right? And mind is such a you can't. It's abstract by its nature, right?
Yeah.
We think abstractly. We're different than other animals, at least as far as we know, right? Let's go through a deer's head, right? But we think abstractly, and we're different. But it's exactly because of that we've been able to create the world that we have due to technological. If we didn't have that capacity, there wouldn't be science. First of all, there wouldn't be technologies. There wouldn't be any of this. So the intrinsic issue is one of identity, of what are we really? That's what everybody wants to know. Like, well, what am I? What are we? What's a human being? And that's it always comes back to that. And we're floundering around having a real tough time of that issue now. I mean, you could argue that it's worse than ever before. I might actually make that argument, but we don't really know since we haven't individually all been here forever, you know. But, yeah, I'd say that is, again, the issue at hand is one of identity and one of knowing ourselves. Know thyself. That was actually like, I can't remember. Wasn't that science? That was related to science, I believe. I can't remember the origin of that phrase now, but I want to say it's part of scientia from Greece somehow. I wish I could remember the details on that.
I just looked it up. It's an ancient Greek. Know thyself is one of the Delphic maxims and was inscribed in the forecourt of the Temple of Apollo at Delphi.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I want to say, too, that's the temple where they believe there was some sort of, like, I don't know, natural, like, crack in the ground that released gas that might have made the Oracle of Delphi actually hallucinate. So I mean, then we can get in, you know, is that real? What is the mind? You know.
Yeah. Trippy, bro.
Yeah, totally, yeah. No, but I like what you were saying there, Aaron, in terms of there's almost something in this, like, scientific revolution that we have. It almost, like, kind of just in some ways you can take it to a level where it sort of seeks to destroy any of that. You know, it's like, oh, your memory isn't this sort of nebulous thing. It's really just your DNA. That's it. You know, end of story. Yeah. There's always, you know, there's some sort of regular physical explanation for what your memory is. And I don't know, I just, like, don't really buy that. And I don't think I would ever want to live in a world where, like, memory can be taken or implanted or, I mean, again, that already kind of does happen, for a lot of people, with really scary results. There's a whole, study of false memories, of implanted memories, that can happen in all sorts of, relationships that people can have. So it's kind of already there. And I don't think you need a bunch of, like, creepy scientists at UCLA, electrocuting sea slugs. I don't know if you want them in charge of, your memory later on in life.
Yeah.
But Aaron, we're coming up towards the end. Is there anything else you want to kind of leave the listeners with in terms of what we've been talking about? Anything that we might have missed that you wanted to mention?
I just had a quick note on what you were saying there is that I've always had that. I don't mean to demonize scientists, but I can't help myself here. Like this pursuit of science and all that sort of thing. There's always been this sort of weird sort of taboo aspect to it, and the church suppressed it for so long. That's the war between the church and the even the alchemists, that thing from occult lore. Mm-hmm. There's always been this taboo sort of thing where it was not allowed to be practiced in the past. And go back to classical Greek culture, a lot of that stuff was just held back because that was part of their ethical code. It's like, well, we choose to hold back from doing things we could because that's the right thing to do, And we've far outgrown that idea or gone past that idea. We don't uphold that idea at all right now, for sure. Just the idea of a scientist being the person that's willing to go and, like, take a body of an animal or even a human and, like, kind of chop it up and just be able to detach oneself from caring about it or thinking of it as like, oh, this was a person or, oh, this was an animal. Like, oh, this is gross. Like taking that aspect of, like, you're doing something gross or wrong out of your consciousness some way or another. It's always been the people that have been able to do that have been able to do science. I just, it's, and again, I don't want to say that, like, these are evil psychopaths that are, I don't want to go like that far, but at the same time, it's like, it's just kind of the reality of where this stuff has come from. It's just, that's been a thought in my mind for a while. I don't think I've ever expressed it before.
No, excellent. And I agree with you there, on a lot of levels. And, it's like it's a tricky subject. It's again, if you kind of criticize it too much, you're anti-science or, you're backwards or you're dumb, you're like a hillbilly and that means you don't believe in global warming and all these other, there's like a whole list of stuff that you get accused of being, there's much more to it. Well, anyway, we thank you so much, Aaron, for joining us. I will try to see if Aaron can stick around for a little bit more, but if not, then please visit theageoftransitions.com where you can find all of Aaron's work. So, Aaron, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pierce.
mostly narcotics.
Freedom.
Oh, yes, I like very much.
Radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our stringent quality controls and absolute zero GMOs plus testing for heavy metals makes us unique in the storable foods market. Our line of fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Take out the amount you need and reseal the package for use within the next 6 months. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's www.simplycleanfoods.net today.
This is Rick Simpson, and you're listening to American Freedom Radio.
American Survival Wholesale is a proud sponsor of the American Freedom Radio. And when you purchase quality products from AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com, you help support this program. Our quality non-GMO foods do not contain MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or heavy metals. At American Survival Wholesale, you can choose from over 8,000 quality products, including self-defense weapons, bug-out bags, and long-term storable food at wholesale prices. We also have custom food packs available, including gluten-free, dairy-free, and vegetarian packs. If we don't have it, you don't need it. American Survival Wholesale is a veteran-owned and operated company which also supports our veterans in need, and we are very active in disaster relief. If you would like to become a distributor, please email us at bugoutamerica@usa.com or call 818-720-0759. We offer free consultations to answer all your questions. Do it today while things are calm. That's AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. I'll give you an example of that. When I was a little kid, if I got sick, they wanted me to go to the hospital and see the doctor. Now they want me to go to a health maintenance organization. Smug, greedy, well-fed white people have invented a language to conceal their sins. It's as simple as that. The CIA doesn't kill anybody anymore. They neutralize people. The government doesn't lie. It engages in disinformation. Israeli murderers are called commandos. Arab commandos are called terrorists. Contra killers are called freedom fighters. Well, if crime fighters fight crime and firefighters fight fire, what do freedom fighters fight? They never mention that part of it to us, do they? Never mention that part of it.
You're listening to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, the network who perseveres in delivering intelligent debate, constructive dialogue with true independence. The freedom to broadcast the truth is not free at all. So what is American Freedom Radio worth to you? The empowering information with fun, honest and pure integrity behind it provides an example to follow. Friendships to flourish with the moral altruism that pulls no punches. The hosts sacrifice and show remarkable discipline in their duty to deliver quality radio in service to the community with strength, wisdom, and loyalty. The founders of AFR wish to thank you personally for sharing your views and insights to make the best radio and alternative media. Now it's time for you to give something back and play a vital role in the future of America. Be as generous with us as we've been with you. Click on the donate banner at AmericanFreedomRadio.com. or volunteer by emailing AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Vaccine, psychotropic drugs, and artillery batteries not included.
Launch sequence initiated.
We're now in the approach phase. Everything looking good. Control is good. 5, roger copy. 3, 2, 1, engage.
Prepare your mind to experience American Freedom Radio. Porkins Policy Radio, offering a unique perspective on everything: geopolitics, culture creation, the reality of the world we live in. Coming to you live from New York City, your host, Pierce Redmond.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Porkins Policy Radio. I am your host, Pierce Redmond. If you are joining us here in the second hour, it is just going to be me for the second hour. In the first hour, we had our good friend Aaron Franz from theageoftransitions.com, and I just couldn't really convince Aaron. He had, other stuff to do. And it's still kind of, it's like mid-afternoon his time, so he had stuff to do, so I couldn't really drag him into the second hour, so you'll just be stuck with me, but that's okay, sometimes it's good to just have an hour just to talk to the listeners, specifically, because when you're doing a show and you have a guest, you're really kind of talking with the guest, whereas when it's just me, it's just me and you, the listeners out there, a part of this. So I don't have too much in the way of stuff. I have some stuff I wanted to talk about, some updates and things. But I will just mention, because I promised a really terrific, wonderful woman that I met in Ireland when I was in Dingle, and I promise this will probably be the last of me harping on about my vacation. I don't know, maybe you all love hearing about what I did on my vacation, but I know sometimes, like when you have a friend who goes away and they, all they do is talk about, in Madrid, this is what we did, and so I don't want to turn the show into that. But I made a promise to a wonderful woman who I met, Maz O'Flaherty. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And she is the owner of easily the best record store I've been in years and years and years. So it's a tiny. It is the they are billed as the smallest record shop in Ireland. And if you ask Maz, she would say in the world, or the smallest independent record store in the world. It is called Dingle Record Shop. And it's not the Dingle Record Shop. She was very specific. It is Dingle Record Shop, and it is amazing. It is like almost worth the trip. If you go to Dingle and you only do one thing, definitely go to Maz's record store. It is amazing. A truly eclectic, just a set of music there. You can find, she's got traditional Irish music and some more contemporary Irish music as well. But, really, she had a tremendous selection of, like, old disco records. She had just stuff from all around the world. Maz is amazing. She is just terrific. She is almost, or basically is blind. But when you walk in, she will introduce herself to you. She'll talk to you. I actually bought one of Maz's albums, which is called Arn on Slee. I think that's how you pronounce it, which is Irish for on the way. And if you go there, it's only €10 if you go there, and Maz will sign it as well. So I have a signed copy of one of Maz O'Flaherty's records. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet because I've just been so busy, but I promised Maz that I would mention her on the podcast because there is a Dingle Record Shop podcast that I would encourage listeners out there to check out. It's definitely not something that I normally talk about on the show, things like that, but it is amazing. She invites all sorts of bands, musicians, famous people, up-and-coming people, and they all come to this literally, my room, which is tiny, might even be a little bit bigger than this record shop. If you Google it, you can see pictures of it. And she invites groups. They go, they set up inside the record shop, and they basically perform. And I think sometimes Maz will like talk with them, and they'll answer questions and things like that. But she's been doing this podcast for I think probably longer than I have been doing the podcast. She's been doing it for many years. She's had, like I said, big name people. Maria Doyle Kennedy. She's performed in the Dingle Record Shop. People will know her from Orphan Black, one of my favorite shows, and she's Maria Doyle Kennedy's in a ton of stuff. I think even not my favorite musician at all. But Bono has even come and performed at Dingle Record Shop. And she's just a really wonderful person, very warm. She has a tremendous knowledge of music of all sorts. Like I said, I mean, when my sister and I were there, we were pulling up old crazy disco records, and, you know, she would just start, you know, singing like songs that were off of some of these albums. She knew, you know, and believe me, she's blind. You know, and she'd be the first to admit that. She knows where every, you know, single record. She's got, you know, old VHSs in there. I think she's even got some like old cassette tapes as well. A ton of stuff, DVDs. She's also got a lot of like rare stuff. And also, just as another plug, it's all like in mint condition. She doesn't have any, you know, you go into like a record shop and you might pick up an album and it's all broken. There's scratches on the vinyl. The album art is like faded. None of that there. It's like everything is in like pristine quality. Really great. And I promised Maz when I was there, we were talking, and I mentioned that I had a podcast and that I would talk about her on the show, and, you know, her face lit up. And so, Maz, thank you so much for all the wonderful time that you spent talking with me in Dingle. Thank you for the album. And I hope maybe we could get Maz on the show sometime in the near future. Maybe we could do like a bonus podcast or something like that. But, yeah, if you are in Dingle, go to Dingle Record Shop. A tiny little place, well worth the visit. And you can go right next door, virtually next door, is Dick Mac's, which is a great pub. And then if you're, if you've had a few and you want to get something to eat, there's a wonderful pizza place, believe it or not. Pizza can be good in Ireland and in Dingle in particular. Just upstairs from Maz's record shop, Blue Zone Pizza, phenomenally good, like brick oven pizza. So really good little place. I just wanted to give a shout out to Maz because I promised that I would mention her on the show. So, and again, it's dinglerecordshop.com is the website. Maz is on Twitter. I think she's on certainly on Facebook and on YouTube as well. And lots to explore on the website. So definitely go check that out, dinglerecordshop.com. But I guess, you know, now that we've gotten the sort of the more pleasant part of this out of the way, we can kind of move on to, I guess, some of the more pressing stuff. So I mean, you know, people will have heard, you know, that my great aunt passed away, and I've just been in like a really just kind of terrible mood just the past couple of days, and I'm going to the funeral tomorrow, and I have to read a eulogy that I wrote. So this is like really kind of like emotionally draining couple of days, writing the eulogy and, you know, kind of editing it and punching it up a little bit. And then, you know, of course it's like 100 degrees in New York, so that never helps. You know, being hot and depressed is not good. And I've just been, like I said, just sort of like out of it, you know, I just haven't been able to like focus on anything. And then, you know, you're away on vacation or you take a break from let's say the radio show, right? This is really, you know, I have a job, obviously I have a day job, but this is what's actually important to me. But so you take a break from it, and then you have to come back, and inevitably that means you have to kind of be following the news again. And I wasn't, thankfully. For the 2 weeks that I was away. And even now that I've been back for a little while, I still have been kind of like hesitant to kind of dive into it. And, you know, the main reason is because it's just like you go online and everything is just so horrific and horrible. And it is really kind of depressing. And I've gotten a few emails from some listeners out there, and some comments here and there, I think like on YouTube maybe or somewhere else, might have been like a tweet. You know, and they're just sort of asked, you know, oh, why are you not talking about you know, Epstein and can you get back into doing more of your, you know, investigations and you know, like cases on, you know, criminals and court cases and things like that. And or even, you know, I've had people, you know, not complaining, but just sort of asking, you know, well, why don't you cover more stuff like what's going on with Israel and Gaza and Iran and all these things. And I will be covering that, obviously, and I think I want to talk a little bit maybe later in this hour about what was going on in Gaza. But, to be honest, and I hate kind of complaining or there's stuff out there, but it's really, really draining. It's like nonstop. Especially you doing a weekly radio show where you have to be topical, you have to be following the news. I honestly can't handle it so much anymore. People will notice I'm not on Twitter nearly as much. I'm not tweeting that much. I might be retweeting some stuff. I mean, I don't even really tweet that much about my own show anymore. I just sort of put it out there. I'll make a couple of tweets and that's it. Because it's a long process too. You gotta, believe me, the second the show ends, like when this, at 5 o'clock, all right, the show ends, Danny and I chat for a little bit, then I go and then I got to write up the episode description. Everyone knows I write long ones. Maybe I'll try to write a shorter one this time. You write that up, then you've got to edit the episode or you got to render it, turn it into a video. That takes a while. Then, tomorrow you've got to upload it. You've got to put your tags for the thing and you got to promote it. And then basically, come Thursday, you got to come up with another idea. And I'm not saying that I don't like doing that because I love doing it and I'm obviously going to continue. But with everything that's going on, it's really kind of tough and difficult, especially when you're dealing with personal stuff and, a death in the family and other things like that. It becomes really kind of daunting. And I'm not trying to say this don't send me these emails complaining that I'm not covering the type of topics that you want. But, for instance, I'm really excited about the stuff I'm doing with Open Minds, and I want to incorporate some of that stuff into this show as well, because I think there's a lot of really great crossover. For instance, the episode we did last week with Yuval Laor. We're definitely going to get Yuval back on Porkins Policy Radio to sort of talk about those topics. Again, in part because it's from a new angle, but it's also just not, this constant stream of garbage coming out. I went on Twitter. It's I really actually can't handle Donald Trump anymore. I'm just I'm over it. It's his little minions, apparently, no matter what this person does, he is pure as a driven snow. These same people that were criticizing him a few weeks ago, and I honestly, I can't even remember what it was they were so upset about that he had done. But, apparently that was it, or look at Alex Jones has this meltdown. Can anyone even remember what that was about? It's irrelevant. It doesn't even matter anymore. And then suddenly he is great again, because he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. This means progress apparently. And it's too much. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know how certain people out there are on Twitter the way that they are with so much hatred out there. It's also just boring. There's only so many times I can, look and see what, Mike Cernovich or Jack Posobiec are doing and just, tweet back at them or it's meaningless. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of rambling. I'm going off and I'm angry. Obviously I'm not in the best of moods right now, but, I don't know. I've felt very kind of, upset with just the way the news cycle has just become so horrible. For instance, yesterday I'm trying to come up with ideas for the show for today, and it's go on Twitter. Let's see what's going on. Maybe I'll find some interesting stories, or there'll be some sort of I don't know, breaking news or something. And it's 52 people murdered in Gaza by the IDF. 2,000 casualties. It's horrific. It's just absolutely horrible. There's almost I don't know how you can honestly justify that. And everyone just praising it, obviously there were tons of people in my feed and myself included that were talking about how horrible this was, but just this sort of, cheering on Jared Kushner and, a bunch of other Trump lackeys. I think Steve Mnuchin was in Jerusalem, unveiling this, big monument and, making America great again by making Israel great again. And, there's like 52 people being butchered by the IDF. And please, none of this like, they were, like, people are saying, they were invading Israel. First off, you can't invade a country that was stolen from you, okay? It's just not going to happen. It literally doesn't make any sense. And they're throwing rocks, okay? That's it. There were no Hamas missiles or rockets being fired into Israel. And even if there were, they do almost nothing. They have to strip down those rockets to the point where they're basically just firing tin cans, which all get intercepted. Or they don't hit anything of any importance because they can't even go that far. And keep in mind, Israel is a tiny country. We're constantly like freaking out about, North Korea, who I guess they're fine now, though. The North Koreans are good because they're gonna, Trump he's got that all under control and it's all good. Kim Jong-un's gonna give up his nuclear weapons. He's gonna do exactly what the Iranians were going to do. But the results are going to somehow be different, because his deal with them is going to be different. And notice, nowhere does Donald Trump mention Moon Jae-in, the South Korean president, who actually did all the real negotiating. Okay, Donald Trump did. Even Mike Pompeo has done more than Donald Trump. Trump hasn't even met with anybody, So whatever. And I highly doubt that Pompeo really negotiated the release of these, these people, these U.S. citizens that were being held in North Korea. I'm sure that was the South Koreans that actually spearheaded all of that kind of stuff. And of course, we're just swooping in to take, credit for all this. But anyway, it's like nonstop. It's just this like nonstop barrage of just like horrific stuff. But they're praising this bold, move, and then, on one side, and then on the other side, they're just shooting down Palestinians, throwing stones with sniper rifles. They're flying drones over Gaza, dropping massive amounts of tear gas, and then, it's all Hamas's fault. They're making them do this or something. Again, there's like this strange perception amongst neocons and these like alt-right idiots that Muslims are just sort of, they're all kind of like brainwashed cult members, and they really have no actual capacity to think on their own, and they can't even really be upset. This is a strange this is the strange idea they have. They're not really, the Palestinians in Gaza, they're not really upset. They're being, told to do this by Hamas. So, they have, and this is how they get away with these like war crimes and whatnot, is because they're not real. Again, they're not real people. They are propaganda tools of Hamas. As if Hamas, pushes a button and 52 Gazans decide, okay, let's go get killed today. Let's go get shot. Let's, throw our lives away. It's insane. This is the same kind of rhetoric that was coming out of, all these like Trump supporters and these neocons and the right wingers that, the Iranians, they all want to die. Because they all want to go to heaven and have their 50 virgins, and they're an apocalyptic nation. The same thing in North Korea. This idea that the North Koreans, they all want to die. They want to launch nuclear weapons because they all want to die because they're so in love with Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un or whoever is going to be next. And they don't really care. They're so far gone. And this is how they justify doing these, horrific things to them. And to kind of flip that around, if, any right-wingers out there. I mean, this is what the FBI and Bill Clinton and this is what they did to the Branch Davidians. They didn't consider them to be real people. They considered them to be brainwashed, cult members who had basically signed away their freedom. So burning women, children, men alive, okay, and shooting at them, that's totally justified. Because, well, they were just, crazy cult members. They wanted to die. They believed in this apocalyptic, messianic, David Koresh and this sort of apocalyptic worldview of, Christianity. So they wanted to die. So it's fine. And I don't know, it's just, I've seen that kind of like sinking more and more into the mainstream, Trump sort of, psyche amongst his supporters and other people as well. The sort of like borderline Trump, or just idiots out there that think that whatever America or Israel or Saudi Arabia or whatever they do is always justified. But it's like kind of reached a new level where it's like you're part of the sort of like secret Muslim agenda if you refer to the Gazans as protesters. They're not they're invaders. According to Mike Cernovich and others. Again, these are some of the these right wing, basically just media trolls. I'm not even going to say the real word that they are. They who we were told we should all, the left should, work with them and this is good and Caitlin Johnstone, this just left wing. I don't even want to call her left wing. She's just a moron. Saying Cernovich is good. We should sort of align ourselves with him. He's calling the Palestinians invaders. Why? Because they were protesting by an illegal border wall that Israel is put there, and they're throwing rocks. And the IDF's response is to shoot them with sniper rifles, to drop tear gas. God only knows what else they're going to get up to. And it's just, I don't know. It's like so depressing and so horrific. And I just kind of found myself like, I don't even want to, talk about this. I don't even want to do the radio show. And that's not true, but that's how I felt. There's just so much anger and stupidity, and ignorance out there, especially about this whole thing, as if this is going to make anybody safer. And that is, of course, what Israel and the U.S. wants. They want instability. They don't want people to be safe in the Middle East. They want violence. Netanyahu, all of, his cronies, his compatriots in other countries, in Saudi Arabia, in England, in Germany, in France, in America, all of these the comrades in arms, they're fine with that. In fact, they're probably fine if a couple Israelis do get killed. Because that will ultimately just strengthen them more. That will make their whole fight seem more just. And I don't know. I know I'm kind of rambling. I'm going off, but I don't know. It's just so depressing that we're kind of like back to square one all over again. Remember, this was, I thought we were going to have this grand political awakening and we were going to drain the swamp. We were going to do things differently. This is more of the same, if not worse, because there's this mentality that we are the righteous ones again, and this is so classic neoconservative propaganda that Trump is seeding out to all of the idiots out there that are still kind of following him, licking his boots and worse. They are falling prey to this the more kind of extremist neoconservative propaganda, where whatever is good for us is good for Israel and vice versa. So butchering poor youth in Gaza, that is good for both of us. And we should, we need more cheerleaders. We need to demonize these people even further. You had I think it was the assistant press secretary here, basically equating the 52 murdered people, murdered Palestinians in Gaza. Well, that was just, it was all Hamas's fault. Again, as if Hamas made them do this. And, it was just a PR stunt for Hamas. That's what these 52 people dead. These 52 bodies, okay? There are 52 families that now don't have a brother or a mother or a father or a sister, a cousin, niece, a nephew. 52 families affected. It's just Hamas's PR. And people eat this up. They buy into it. And, this sort of rhetoric has always kind of existed, but it's under the neocons that it's become much more the thrust of all of this. It's don't forget that just after 9/11, all these neocons coming on the radio shows and stuff basically say, oh yeah, this is the Palestinians. It's going to come out that this is the Palestinians. We need to go after the Palestinians. They're behind all of this. People kind of forgot that and just sort of went, down the memory hole, and that was the end of it. But that kind of a mentality is coming back. Those sort of talking points are coming back. And I wonder if, some of this moving the embassy isn't just another sort of, chess move by the neocons. Again, they always want to talk about, the deep state and, Trump is playing 4D chess. I mean, no. I don't even think Trump is capable of playing checkers. Maybe tic-tac-toe. That might be about it. That's more his, speed. But, if anyone's, the neocons are certainly playing some type of chess here. I don't know if it's 2D, 3D, 4D, whatnot. But they are getting their way. And Donald Trump is paving the way. So he's either an idiot who can't, is unaware. He's a complete pushover and was never the person he was going to be. Or he's complicit in all of it. He doesn't really care. He could care less what they're doing. He's getting his money. He's getting his publicity. He can say, I did it. I moved the embassy. Even though the embassy's not even going to do that much. Most of the day-to-day stuff, I believe, is still going to be in Tel Aviv. Just because you move an embassy, I mean, that's it. It's not like staff, you need computers, you need pens, Post-it notes, security, infrastructure. I mean, that's not just happening overnight. Have they built an embassy? Is it like one that is capable of, having the influence that you need to have in a place like Israel? No, I don't think. That's not happening. So, again, it's all show. None of this is even all that real, except when, you've got Mnuchin and Kushner smiling and waving and, showing this monument, and then 52 people dead. They're gone forever. 2,000 people injured. Some of them may never walk again. They may not be able to see anymore. Suicides. There's so much over there. And this is just like one day. And this has happened. And I don't know, that really kind of depressed me and just kind of made me feel like, what's the point of even talking about this anymore sometimes? Because I feel like a lot of the time I'm just talking to a brick wall about this. I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore. You've got this in Israel. Then you're ripping up the Iran deal. Again, the neocons are winning with that one. War with Iran is back on the table. This is totally acceptable now. Trump there's no way he's not negotiating anything. No Iranian is going to sit down with him. Why would they? They had already negotiated a deal. Getting aside from the, is it a good deal, a bad deal? I think that's kind of irrelevant because if you're too ignorant to actually understand how geopolitics works, well, I can't really help you. But Iran, even if they built a bomb, they're never going to use it, okay? What do they have to gain from that? And again, the only person that we know has a bomb is Israel. And we helped cover it up. But they were never going to use a bomb. I mean, it would just be crazy. And I don't think that they would ever really get to the point where they would make one, you know, because then, again, you would have proliferation. Saudi Arabia is going to want to bomb. United Arab Emirates is going to want to bomb. Jordan's going to want to bomb. Or they're going to want, you know, American bases to be there with, you know, nuclear tip missiles pointed at Tehran and other places just in case. I mean, it wasn't going to happen. That is just not how geopolitics works. There's no point to it. They have nothing to gain from that. Now, and, you know, this is only emboldening the hardliners within Iran, which again is just what the neocons want. Because, you know, the same way that they demonize the Palestinians into they're just all brainwashed idiots who follow whatever Hamas tells them to do. You know, they can't think for themselves. They can't genuinely be upset with the state of Israel for, the economic blockade, the maritime blockade, for cutting off power, for continually bombing them back into the Stone Age, for not allowing them freedom of movement, for not allowing them to return to places that are now Israel, for attacking people routinely, for disappearing Palestinians. I mean, they can't actually be upset because of that. They're only upset because Hamas told them to. You know, because they're that far gone. Well, that's a wonderful PR tool for the neocons. You know, for the right wingers, for these people that are all around Donald Trump, Mr. I'm going to drain the swamp. You know, he's put in place all of these people that they want that mindset to be out there. They want the perception to be that Hamas is the evil puppet master. And of course, they're getting their orders ultimately from the big bad Iran, you know, the ultimate evil in the world. And the people there, they're just pawns. In fact, they're less than pawns. They're brainwashed pawns. They can't even have, their own thoughts. They're not even capable of having real grievances. You know, they should just be content. They should just sit there and be happy. But instead, they get all riled up because they're so dumb. They fall for Hamas propaganda, like, you know, Israel is oppressing them, or Israel's maritime blockade has basically made it so that there's no, the fishing industry is gone within Gaza. Again, like, that's the mindset they put out there. Well, those same people are very much in favor of putting out that sort of a perception when it comes to Iran. And now it's true. Rouhani is not the most powerful person in Iran. And obviously, power does flow from Khamenei, the Ayatollah. The Revolutionary Guard is especially powerful in Iran. No one's denying that. I'm not doubting that. I'm not, but, when the Iran deal was in place, there was at least something there. Rouhani had a seat at the table. He may not have been the most powerful person, but, he did help spearhead that deal. He did have some skin in the game. He had some cards to play. Now they've removed all of that, and instead what we have are, religious zealots that are exercising more of their sort of crazy zealotry all over people in Iran. And in large, they are correct. The Americans are screwing over the Iranian people. The economic sanctions are going to be back. That means it's going to be more difficult to import drugs into Iran, like life-saving drugs for, diabetes, high blood pressure, things like that. It's going to be more difficult for foreign investment to come in. It's going to be difficult to travel. Prices of food are going to go up. Again, I mean, they want all of this to happen. And they didn't get it the last time around when they had their favorite cult group, the MEK, when they had them, start trouble and basically, co-opt these protests that were going on, which were normal in Iran, which have been happening on and off for months and months. Economic protests. Again, they are allowed in Iran. It's just that, the CNN or BBC, they're just not going to actually show that. They're only going to show it when it gets out of hand, when you have a bunch of psychotic cult members who were kicked out of Iran and then worked for Saddam Hussein, our enemy. When they come in and they start, burning cars and attacking police and mysteriously, guns start showing up and there's shootings and they can't tell, was it a protester, was it the police? They love that. They want that to happen. And I think we're kind of getting back around to that. It didn't work a couple of months ago when they had this happening. But already, in the moments before Trump officially announced that he was going to renege on the Iran deal and tear it up, there was a whole slew of neocons like Eli Lake and others who were going on Bloomberg and a whole bunch of other news outlets saying, this is a wonderful opportunity for Donald Trump to finally embrace the democracy movement in Iran, which is, what democracy movement? And that's really just a very cute euphemism for the Mujahideen cult. That is what they were referring to with the democracy movement. They've all, because again, during those protests a few months ago over, food prices and other economic issues, all of those same people that were praising Trump getting rid of the Iran deal were praising the MEK and saying that Rajavi, who's the head of the group, that she really was the true sort of leader of the opposition. So again, 4D chess, whatever the hell you want to call it, I think that's happening right now. And the fact that so many people are just kind of like whatever about it is upsetting, and that there are more people that just truly don't see this, or that they think that this is all a good idea, is, I don't know, it's just like really kind of depressing, especially coming, it's ironic coming from this, the Twitterati class that, thinks that Trump, everything he does is amazing, but to just sort of fall so much for this is really pathetic. But that's what I see is happening right now. They will get rid of this. The more hardcore religious influencers within Iran will now have a platform again, which is what they like. They will be able to stir up enough anti-American. We already people were tweeting about this. I think it was a few days ago now. In Iranian parliament, they burned an American flag. Oh my God. It's like, what, your country is really just a flag? Get a grip. Please get a grip, okay? Who cares? Burn a flag. It's like a meaningless effort. I recently saw a theater piece. This was maybe, 3 or 4 months ago. And this, believe me, none of these people were Trump supporters. It's a very left-wing sort of a crowd. And there's a part where, this guy burns an American flag, and it's, this real, look at us, we're radicals again. And again, it's all these aging hippies who think this is so controversial. Meaningless. Who cares? Burn a flag. Burn a whole bunch of flags. Burn Trump in effigy. Who cares? It means nothing. But that plays great for the American public. You see, they hate us. The Revolutionary Guard, elements of the Revolutionary Guard, which were not too keen on the Iran deal, they will be able to exert more influence. And now, basically, they will have taken Rouhani, who in so many ways, excuse me, I'm losing my throat here. Rouhani was in so many ways the preferred presidential candidate for the American establishment. Okay, Ahmadinejad was a more sort of religious right-wing populist. They hated him. Rouhani ostensibly is like a neoliberal. You know, I mean, he really is in favor of the global order. That's why he signed into this whole Iran deal. He wanted to be a part of this. And you know, I think for a lot of people, they see the way Rouhani dresses, okay, with the turban, with the more, conservative religious garb, and they think that he is, I don't know, he is like the Ayatollah of the 80s. But no, he's really, he's like any other Western politician, or he's more in line with those sorts of people than Ahmadinejad ever was. But, that doesn't really matter. So they've taken away all of Rouhani's sort of power. Now he is meaningless. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. These neocons and others who were saying, oh, well, Rouhani doesn't have any power. Well, he had something until Trump ripped up the Iran deal. Now Rouhani really has nothing. There's nothing for him that he can bargain with anymore. So the right-wing religious leaders will come back into power. The scarier elements of Iranian intelligence will come back into power. We will see, an uptick probably in, arms and things like that, proxy battles. All of this is going to become more exacerbated. And ultimately, again, the only people that are really going to be suffering are the Iranian people, average people who really have, I don't think they care truly one way or the other, whether Iran's centrifuges are spinning at X amount of, rotations versus Y amount, or, how much uranium can be enriched. I mean, to the average person, that's not really all that important. But it is, like I said, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. These people that were saying Rouhani had no power, well, yes, now it is true. Now he has no power. And I don't know, I'm worried about this direction. And I think this is a great example of the, Hillary would have been worse than Trump. No, he's exactly the same as Hillary Clinton. Maybe even a little bit worse. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, he is worse because he's in power. Okay, Hillary's not. And this is really sort of like setting the stage for, serious conflict. And it's so wonderful to see North Korea. Who cares? That's gone. Nobody, whatever. They freed those hostages. End of story. Kim Jong-un is a good guy now. He's going to give up all of his nuclear weapons. Him and Trump are going to be best. I mean, they're talking about giving Trump the Nobel Peace Prize for this. Again, he didn't do anything. Moon Jae-in should get a Nobel Peace Prize, if anyone's going to get one. And I don't even think he really deserves one. But, if you're going to get it. I mean, I also don't understand really how we're just supposed to, after decades and decades of anti-North Korean propaganda, I guess we're just all going to simultaneously forget it. It's like it never happened. Because Trump solved that. Even though, okay, whatever. What if it's all hunky-dory? North and South Korea unite, hands across Korea. Everything is fine. Gaza, Yemen, Syria, Iran. I mean, he's like created more problems than he's actually solved. And I don't know. I'm sort of like at a loss for words. I know I'm kind of rambling and ranting. I'm just so kind of frustrated and sick of all of this sort of stuff and this like hatred that's out there. And this like feeling like, all of the stuff that happened, under the Bush's administration is all being resurrected again and slapped with a, Trump seal of approval, and everyone is loving it. Gina Haspel is probably, is going to become CIA director, and torture is back. That's okay. Let's fill up Guantanamo. Again, I mean, we'll probably just start carting off all the Iranians that we don't like over there. It's like we haven't progressed as a nation at all. I think this is just like a great example too of just all of this hoopla, hope, and change under Obama. Nothing has changed. It's all the same. We've regressed. We've actually gone back, if anything. But it's so sickening to see this. People praising torture. I saw this like over and over again. Some former Marine UFC fighter and his friends, waterboarded him, and you see, it's all fine. Nothing to see here. Nothing is bad. I was totally okay. First off, he wasn't restrained. And I don't believe it. Fine, maybe he was okay, but let's waterboard him 148 more times, okay, and physically restrain him and beat him and submit him to sleep deprivation, sexual humiliation, all these things. Then let's see how he feels being waterboarded. It's just crazy. And the scary part about this is like there are people saying that like whatever, this isn't torture. We're back to that argument. And then there's like a whole slew of people that are kind of coming back out of the woodwork. They were there for the Rumsfeld, neocon, Wolfowitz, cabal, and now they're all popping back out again, and they're like, whatever, torture is fine. Torture works. They're not even calling it enhanced interrogation anymore. They're just saying it's torture and it's fine. It's okay for America to torture. We have the moral superiority. And it's just, I don't know, it's like really kind of depressing. It's so sad to see that we're like back here again. I mean, who would have thought that Oliver North would become, president of the NRA? He admitted to selling weapons to the Iranians, our mortal enemies. That's the other funny thing that I'll kind of throw in because I think I'm coming up close on the break here. The neocons who, first sort of got their feet really wet during Iran-Contra, they loved the Ayatollah because they could sell weapons to the Ayatollah. That was all fine. They got along great with him. Ronald Reagan negotiated with the Ayatollah in order to keep all those hostages there. So, I mean, this is the other kind of flip side to all of this, is that the neocons actually prefer working with the religious zealots. And I think, in a sick way, the religious zealots, they need the neocons too. Because they need to have an enemy as well. So again, at the end of the day, this is only benefiting the most extreme right-wing governments in both our country and in Iran. That's who's really coming out on top. Not us, not the Iranians, not anyone else. The arms industry, obviously, they're going to do all right by all this, but that's about it. And it's so sad to see this all kind of happening again. And I don't know, it just kind of like depressed the crap out of me. I was really just kind of, I think having been away from it for a while and then kind of jumping back in, and it's like more of the same, and then also this like even more kind of extreme nature to it. This more angry, vitriolic hatred and stuff that they've upped the ante with all of this. I'm coughing here. I'm losing my voice. It's like 100 degrees in my room. I'm all out of my last sip of water. Well, I'm sure that this probably wasn't the episode or the hour that you had all, intended or planned on or was going to enjoy. But I don't know. I was just so kind of frustrated. I know I went all over the place. Probably not much of what I said made all that much sense. But I'm in a bad mood. Family or, death, excuse me, death in the family. Lots of stresses and stuff like that. And, you know, to just sort of like look at the news and it's just this endless litany of death and anger and racism and all this stuff. It's just, it's really kind of daunting sometimes. I think, you know, a lot of people, think that, you just sort of deal with it and you make the radio show and then that's it, you know, but believe me, a lot of this stuff takes a lot out of you. So I don't know, sometimes I've been covering some topics lately that are a little bit different or not quite, you know, in the realm of stuff that you're used to, you know, bear with me because you can't cover stuff like this all the time every day. I mean, it's too much. You're going to go crazy. You need to kind of be able to kind of take a break from that or cover some other stuff. And believe me, I've got some great, you know, shows in the pipeline that are more kind of, you know, traditional Porkins shows and some more fun ones too. I mean, like I said, we're going to be doing Porkins Great Game. Again, Christoph and I should hopefully be recording a new episode. There's stuff at the Open Minds Foundation that's going to be interesting. I've got some, you know, there's some review stuff. I mean, we've got Billions to talk about. I'd love to talk with Chuck Ocelli about the show Counterpart, which is great. So, you know, there'll be some of those types of things, but it's just sometimes I just can't handle the way the news cycle has just become this like black hole of like trauma, you know, over and over and over again. It's just so draining. I don't know. There's not much else I can really say on that topic. And I hope that, you know, you got something out of this very long-winded, angry rant with me coughing in the background, and you probably hear me sweating. I'm so hot in here in my room right now. But, you know, I do apologize for that, but it's just been sort of a tough time for me the past couple of days. And I don't know, the stuff in Gaza really just kind of shook me. I don't know. There was something just really, the nonchalant attitude with which this happened. And the way that if people were following like the IDF's like social media, I mean, they were really kind of, usually when a massacre like this happens, they'll have some kind of, you know, their PR spokesman will come out and say, oh, well, you don't know the full story and this was going on and they were under attack and, or they'll kind of like ignore it, you know, like it's not really happening. But they were sort of like proud of this. They liked this. Again, because, you know, moving the embassy, tearing up the Iran deal, this is a green light to our, you know, local enforcer in the Middle East that you can basically do whatever you want. There are now no consequences. You know, if you want to bomb Iran, I mean, I was still seeing this stuff that like people were, you know, putting this, I mean, complete lies that like Iran was firing missiles at Israel. No. I mean, Israel is definitely firing missiles at Iranian military facilities in Syria, but, you know, Tehran is not launching missiles at Israel. It's not happening. Again, what would they have to gain from that? Absolutely nothing. They would be destroyed. It's not how geopolitics works. Yeah, it was just, the whole thing just kind of put me in this strange mood and mindset, and I don't know. I didn't think it would, like, affect me so much the way it did, but it's just, it's so sad to see this all happening. And to basically, I think this is, in so many ways, this is really, not like the end of the Palestinians, you know, but I think this is like a new chapter in terms of the occupation of Gaza and the West Bank. I think we're going to reach a new level of violence. I think it's going to be a new level of propaganda against the Palestinians. And, you know, I think it's really going to turn out in an awful way. And I hope that people are cognizant of this and are speaking out. I do have a little bit of faith that, you know, it at least here in America, things are changing a little bit. But until next week, I will be talking to you all very soon. I am so sorry about this rant, but it just couldn't be helped. So thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you very soon.
basically narcotics.
Freedom.
Oh, yes, I like very much.
Radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our stringent quality controls and absolute zero GMOs plus testing for heavy metals makes us unique in the storable foods market. Our line of fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Take out the amount you need and reseal the package for use within the next 6 months. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's www.simplycleanfoods.net today.
This is Rick Simpson, and you're listening to American Freedom Radio.
American Survival Wholesale is a proud sponsor of the American Freedom Radio. And when you purchase quality products from AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com, you help support this program. Our quality non-GMO foods do not contain MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or heavy metals. At American Survival Wholesale, you can choose from over 8,000 quality products, including self-defense weapons, bug-out bags, and long-term storable food at wholesale prices. We also have custom food packs available, including gluten-free, dairy-free, and vegetarian packs. If we don't have it, you don't need it. American Survival Wholesale is a veteran-owned and operated company which also supports our veterans in need, and we are very active in disaster relief. If you would like to become a distributor, please email us at bugoutamerica@usa.com or call 818-720-0759. We offer free consultations to answer all your questions. Do it today while things are calm. That's AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com.
And when we're not invading some sovereign nation or setting it on fire from the air, which is more fun for our Nintendo pilots, then we're usually declaring war on something here at home. Did you ever notice that about us? We love to declare war on things here in America. Anything we don't like about ourselves, we declare war on it. We don't do anything about it. We just declare war on it. It's the only metaphor we have in our public discourse for solving problems, declaring war. We have to declare war on everything. We have a war on crime, the war on poverty, the war on litter, the war on cancer, the war on drugs. But you ever notice we got no war on homelessness? Huh? No war on homelessness. You know why? There's no money in that problem. No money to be made off of the homeless. If you could find a solution to homelessness where the corporate swine and the politicians could steal a couple of $1 million each, you'd see the streets of America begin to clear up pretty quick. I'll guarantee you that. I will guarantee you that.
You're listening to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, the network who perseveres in delivering intelligent debate, constructive dialogue with true independence. The freedom to broadcast the truth is not free at all. So what is American Freedom Radio worth to you? The empowering information with fun, honest and pure integrity behind it provides an example to follow. Friendships to flourish with the moral altruism that pulls no punches. The hosts sacrifice and show remarkable discipline in their duty to deliver quality radio in service to the community with strength, wisdom and loyalty. The founders of AFR wish to thank you personally for sharing your views and insights to make the best radio and alternative media. Now it's time for you to give something back and play a vital role in the future of America. Be as generous with us as we've been with you. Click on the donate banner at AmericanFreedomRadio.com or volunteer by emailing AmericanFreedomRadio@ymail.com. Vaccine, psychotropic drugs and artillery batteries not included.
Launch sequence initiated.
We're now in the approach phase. Everything looking good. Control is good. 5, roger copy. 3, 2, 1, engage.
Prepare your mind to experience American Freedom Radio.